Hello, and thanks for tuning into another episode of Formscan on IrishRacing.com. Delighted to be joined this week by Donn McClean to preview a brilliant Irish Guineas weekend. Donn, really exciting action. Are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, look, it's a hell of a weekend ahead, Emma. Really, it's always a full weekend, the Guineas weekend, with the 2000 on Saturday, the 1000 Sunday, the Tattersalls Gold Cup, and yeah, lots of other really interesting races along the way. So yeah, looking forward to it, lots.
Yeah, it's brilliant. We'll have a look at both days. Kind of some of the best races over the 2 days. I think we'll start off. We'll go straight into because there's plenty to talk about. I think, and we'll go into Saturday's action, and we'll start with the 155. It's the Marble Hill Stakes, 6 furlong sprint for the 2-year-olds. Donn, I suppose. Look, we're kind of learning about these as we go, I suppose. But there's a few here who are pretty taking on debut, and it's kind of normally a pretty good starting point for some of these good 2-year-olds. I think Blackbeard has won it in the past, and a few other nice horses. Fozzie Stack won it a couple of years ago with Castle Star, and he has the only filly in here expected issues. But I thought Camille Pissarro was a real could be hard to beat here for Aidan O'Brien. What's your take on these 2-year-olds?
Yeah, Siskin won it as well, didn't he, for Gerline? So yeah, like it's Camille Pissarro. You couldn't have faulted what he did the last day. He was strong going to the line. He was impressive in winning and beating New Theory and Dr. Ali, and that's the race that River Tiber won last year. Aidan O'Brien has won the last 3 renewals of that maiden. He won it with River Tiber last year, and River Tiber, we'll talk about him later on as well, but he went on and won the Coventry Stakes at Royal Ascot. So that could be where Camille Pissarro is heading. But I think he's probably going to be short enough. You've got Arizona Blaze in there as well, who was impressed with winning the first juveniles race of the year and then didn't run badly last time in the first flyer back at the Curragh on softer ground. I mean, and that's going to be a feature of the weekend. I think a lot of these horses have been running on ground that was a lot softer than the ground they're going to encounter for the weekend. So it's something to take into account across the board. But I thought Midnight Strike was impressed with the Curragh the last day, and like again soft ground, but he did it well. He was kind of just in behind the pace, and he picked up impressively on the far side away from the stands rail. He went to the line strongly, and I think Joseph O'Brien said afterwards that he was kind of a bit concerned about the 5 furlong trip, that he thought he might be better over further, and that makes sense. It's Dam's half sister to Fox Power, who won a listed race over a mile. The runner-up that day, Treasure Isle, came out and won at Naas next time as well, so that form was enhanced, and he's obviously got form at the Curragh. I think the step back up to, or the step up to 6 furlongs will be a positive for him. And it's just his attitude the last day seemed like a horse who was going forward and who could progress by a fair bit for the run the last day. So I think it could be maybe interesting against Camille Pissarro.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what prices they open up at. Joseph spoke. We were down at Joseph's doing a stable tour earlier in the week, and he spoke quite favourably about Midnight Strike as well. Yeah, and I agree. He was pretty good on debut. Stepping onto nicer ground, maybe a small question mark about him, but definitely a big contender here for Joe. So I'm probably going to side with the Aidan O'Brien runner here. I just was really impressed by him. I thought he was quite green winning in Navan. Ryan, I think, gave him one flick behind the saddle, and he really ran on for it. Kind of hand and heels right the whole time. Looked like a big kind of imposing kind of colt. You kind of see with a lot of the Aidan O'Brien runners this year that they'll step on an awful lot from their first run. I think if he steps up on that one, he'd be pretty hard to beat here. So interesting to see what prices they open at. But I'm with Camille Pissarro and Donn. Midnight Strike in the opener at the Curragh. Well, the opener for us at the Curragh, the 155. But we'll go on to the 230 then. Another sprint, a grade 2 sprint over the 6 furlongs again. A really competitive looking contest. Last year's winner, Art Power, comes back over for Tim Easterby. He's in here, I think, around 7-2 favourite with Boyles. Plenty in here with good chances, though. Moss Tucker was a really good performer last year for Ken Condon. Grade 1 winner, the Flying Five, of course, in this Group 1 winner, at this track last year. You can make a case for plenty in here, Donn. What's your take on it?
Yeah, you could. I was a bit surprised that Art Power was put in as favourite. I know, look, he's very good here. He comes to Ireland and he seems to have a different level of form in Ireland compared to Britain, most notably at the Curragh, but he won at Naas as well. But he was beaten at the Curragh the last time he was here in the Flying Five, as you said, the race that Moss Tucker won. And I just thought he'd be a bit bigger than he was. He ran well at York the last day in the Duke of York Stakes, and I thought he did well to keep on. He was kind of prominent early, and then he was passed, and I thought he might drop away, but he actually kept on well to finish 5th. He was behind Should Have Been a Ring that day, so he's got about 2 lengths to make up on Should Have Been a Ring. And I think Should Have Been a Ring as a player as well. That was a good run on the Duke of York Stakes. But just be afraid that 6 furlongs on good or fastish ground might not be a stiff enough test for him. He's a horse who he does come under a ride early enough in his races. Now he finds lots of pressure and he stays on, but he's been staying on into the minor places instead of staying on well enough to go and win. And he's a short enough price as well. And actually, he finished behind Regional in the sprint stakes at Haydock there last September. I think Regional has been a bit overlooked by the market, actually, Emma. Thought he was good the last day. The last time we saw him in that Sprint Cup, he got into a good early position, and he saw off all comers. He had a neck and hand over, should have been a ring in the end. And he's a horse who's been flying straight over 5 furlongs as well as 6, but he saw at the 6th furlong well the last day. And when he ran in the Nunthorpe Stakes at York, I just thought that over the 5 furlongs, well, I know York's a fast 5 furlongs, that he was just a wee bit outspeeded, and the step up to 6 for the Haydock Sprint Cup the last day, that was a positive for him. I think fast ground, 6 furlongs, that's probably ideal for him, as long as the ground does remain at least on the fast side. Ed Bethell, his trainer, he doesn't have many runners in Ireland. I think he's only had 1 runner ever. That was in the Goffs Million a couple of years ago. And Regional goes really well at Haydock. He's run 3 times at Haydock. He's won all 3 times, and he would have had the option of the Temple Stakes at Haydock this weekend. So I think that's over 5 furlongs. So maybe the thinking is that he's better over 6. And I kind of agree with that. I think 6 furlongs, a fast 6 furlongs, suits him really well. He is making his seasonal debut. This will be his first run of the year. But he won on his debut last year. He won on his debut in 2021 as well. So I just and Ed Bethell, his horses are in tremendous form. I think he's had 4 winners from his last 10 runners, something like that. Like he had 2 winners. His last 2 runners both won there at Carlisle earlier in the week. So I think Regional has plenty in his favour. Look, Moss Tucker, you have to love Moss Tucker. Ken Condon has done a brilliant job with him. But I thought at Naas the last day he was good in winning, and the feeling beforehand seemed to be that he would come on for it. But it was yielding ground that day. I'd just be a wee bit afraid of him on better ground, like on fast ground. Matilda Picot, Kieran Cotter's filly, again, similar with her. I think she's a wee bit better on easier ground, and easy. Andy Slattery's filly, I think she's probably all her forms on soft ground as well. Sorry, she's won on good ground, but her best form's on soft ground. So there are a couple of horses in here that if the rain does come, I think it'll change things for them. But on as we stand at the moment, I'm kind of working on the premise of kind of good, fastish ground, and on that type of ground, I think Regional is overpriced.
Very good. Regional in there, 11-2 doesn't look a bad price about him at all. And yeah, like you said, making seasonal debut, Bryce, you'd imagine travelling over here, he's going to be well ready for this. You mentioned Matilda Picot. I thought she was an interesting one here, dropping back to the 6 furlongs. I think the first time in a year she's raced over the 6. I suppose she races so enthusiastically. It's probably worth another go with her. Whether it's her best trip or not will be remain to be seen. But she's a filly I like. But I'd probably look. You mentioned the ground. If any rain comes at all, I think Moss Tucker could be pretty hard to beat here. You kind of said he was impressive there, beating Ocean Quest cosily enough there on his reappearance at Naas. And just reading quotes from the trainer, kind of you alluded to it, it kind of sounded like he was just about ready to run that day. So like you'd imagine he should be well capable of stepping up on that run. Rattling ground, if no rain comes at all, might be a bit of a worry. He does like maybe a slight cut in the ground. So if rain starts to fall, I think Moss Tucker could be very hard to beat in this one. But a very strong case there made for Regional by Donn and the UK Radar. But we'll go on to the 305. It's the Orby Stakes, a conditions race, I think, for horses who haven't won a grade 1 or grade 2 contest. No prices up for this one, but you'd imagine the market leaders are probably likely to be Candlefort for William Haggis and Ryan Moore on connections alone, even for that one. But he's a solid horse in this kind of company, I suppose. Raise You for Joseph O'Brien got a favourable mention as well during the week. Obviously won this race back in 2022, and I thought somehow, I'm going to pronounce it for Dermot Weld, it was a really, really interesting runner, one of the most lightly raced fillies in the field. She was eye-catching for me in here, Don. What were you thinking on this one?
Exactly the same. Yeah, exactly the same. I think she's a really interesting filly. Raise You, I thought Raise You did well the last day behind White Birch when he kept in the alleged stakes. He kind of kept on towards the far side. That was his first run in a year and a half. And as you said, Emma, he won the race 2 years ago. And look, he's 8 now. But I thought the last day it proved that he retained lots of ability. And if the rains do come, he'd definitely be a player. I fully agree with Ken Candleford as well. Like he's, Ryan Moore, William Haggis. William Haggis has a fantastic record when he sends horses over here. He's the Duke of Edinburgh winner from 2 years ago, and he kind of plies his trade in listed Group 3 companies. So this listed race, you'd imagine he will be one of the classier horses in the race. But yes, Sumha, I thought she did well to win on her racecourse debut at the Curragh in August last year. She was back in the field. It was a slowly run race. She stayed on well to get the better of Thunder Roll, and Thunder Roll exacted her revenge in her the last day in the Noble Stakes. But I don't think Sumi had the run of the race. She was in behind Chris Hayes kind of when he wanted to get out and wanted the gaps. They just didn't open up. And by the time she got out, it was a wee bit too late. So I thought she did well to finish as close as she did. She was only beaten a half a length by Thunder Roll. Thunder Roll, like she's a good filly of Joseph O'Brien's, and Sumiha, she's from a good Aga Khan family as well. I think that there's like you, Emma. I think there's much more to come from her, and this 1.5-mile trip is a good trip for her. She saw that well the last day. I think a more strongly run race at the trip that should suit her. It was soft ground the last day in the Noble Stakes, but she handled kind of goodish ground on her racecourse debut, so good ground shouldn't be any issue for her. And the Dermot Wild horses, they were only just starting to get going. That I think that night he had his first winner of the season with Homeless Song's brother, who we're going to talk about later on as well. So the Dermot Wild horses, they're going well now, and I think I'll be interested to see what price she is.
Yeah, I'm with you completely on that one. I won't repeat everything you said, but I think she's a really, really interesting runner for Dermot Weld. And yeah, I think she could be dangerous in this one. She's really unexposed kind of compared to others in the field, I suppose. But I thought Ila Mujares is probably an interesting one to keep an eye on as well for Paddy Toomey. First run for the yard after coming from Rafe Beckett. Probably hadn't been running up to the same level as some others in the field, but very shrewd yard, and starting off here has to be kind of a note to how highly they think of her, and if he can get any kind of improvement out of her, she could be a player in here as well. But I think we're both strong enough on the Dermot Weld runner in the Orby, and we'll go on to the 340 then. Of course, the Irish 2,000 guineas. I think this is a cracker. There's really no hiding place for anyone in this race. I think it's going to be a real test of the English Guineas form, of course, with the two Richard Hannon runners coming back over second and third in Newmarket, and of course throw in the Aidan O'Brien River Tiber unquestionable. It's making a really cracking contest on. I suppose Rosaline, great race in Newmarket. Start opening up here short enough, 10 to 11 on. Price is justified, I think, but would you be looking to take him on here?
Do you know, I was, but I find it hard to take him on. Like River Tiber, for me, he has to prove his stamina. He's a Middle Park horse. He ran well in the Middle Park, and he's never been beyond 6 furlongs. It's a big step up in trip. His dam was a sprinter. She's from the family of sprinters, and I just think that he's a horse that might be dropping back down in trip after running in the Guineas. Maybe not. And look, it's obviously significant that Ryan Moore has chosen to ride him in front of Unquestionable, so that's significant. And Aidan O'Brien, he's obviously got a phenomenal record in the Irish 2,000 Guineas, but he doesn't tend to win it with a lesser fancied horse. You know, he tends to, when he wins it, he tends to win it with the horses that were front and center. I think Black Menalouche is the last Aidan O'Brien trained horse to win it, who wasn't the most favoured of the stables representative in the Irish 2,000 Guineas. Just come back to 2001. So it's significant, obviously, that Ryan Moore has chosen to ride River Tiber. Unquestionable as a player, like he was very good in the Breeders' Cup last week or last year. And he only has a length to find with Rosalien on their running in the Prix Jean Lagardère. But I just think Rosalien could have been marked up on that run. He was out the back early. He was drawn wide. He had to come around them. He was wider than ideal into the home straight. And I thought he did well to win, actually, that day. And then he went on to the Guineas. And I was kind of trying to construct a case for Hatem. I thought Hatem was an underrated horse generally. Like, he won the Craven Stakes. He was a big price. He was a big price in the Guineas as well, despite having won the Craven. And he ran another big race to finish third. But, you know, they're obviously stable companions, and you're kind of trying to make a case how Hatem will reverse placement with Rosalien, and it's very hard to construct that case. I think, like Sean Levy's chosen to ride Rosalien finished in front of Hatem in the Guineas at Newmarket, and that was his seasonal debut, whereas Hatem had a run, and generally Hatem is more exposed. He was more exposed last year as a juvenile than Rosalien was. So, maybe a stiffer test at the Curragh will suit Hatem better. But I thought Rosallion saw out the trip well the last at Newmarket. I don't think stamina, while stamina might have been an issue going into the Guineas at Newmarket, I don't think it is now. I thought he saw it out well, for all that he was beaten in the end by a notable speech, and he just kind of maybe just his run flattened out up the hill. But it was the first run of the season, so you can easily allow him that. So I'm struggling to find an angle here. I think Rosallion is the most likely winner by far. I think he's the correct favourite, and even money is around about right. And I think Hatem might even be the one to chase him home. It could be a good race for Richard Hannon.
I was kind of with you here. It's hard. It's hard enough to try and find something to beat him. Kind of agree with you on the issue with the trip. I thought he ran through the line relatively well. I don't think it would be a major worry going back up to the mile here. River Tiber. Look, if you could guarantee me he'd stay the mile, I probably would back him. But it's a massive question mark. And even quotes from Aidan O'Brien earlier this week seem to suggest they're not really sure themselves either. It's probably just trying it once, and that might be it from him. But you mentioned questionable. I remember we were at Aidan O'Brien's a couple of months ago, and Aidan seemed to think River Tiber was £5 clear of unquestionable, even though he said the ratings don't suggest that. So that kind of speaks to their level of ability. But I suppose unquestionable is more proven at the trip. Like you said, he was very good at the Breeders' Cup, but still has form to find with Rosallion, who probably will improve, probably has improved again, for the extra year under his back. So yeah, look, he's a very, very short price, but I find him hard to see him getting beat. River Tiber, he's probably the biggest danger in my mind, but there's definitely no guarantee he's going to stay. So might be dangerous enough to back him there. But look, I think we're both with the Richard Hannon one there. We won't spend too much more time on it, but yeah, cracking race. It'll be interesting to see how they all come out of it. Nice to see Jack Davison as well having his first classic runner with Take Me to Church. He won that Madras handicap that Paddington graduated from as well. So it has been a route for Irish Guineas winners in the past, although he is a big price to win Saturday's feature. We'll go on to Sunday anyway. I think the first race we'll start off with is the 2:35. It's a Group 2 over the mile. I think all eyes here will definitely be on the Joseph O'Brien trained Rogue Millennium, having her first run since switching hands for massive money. I think 1.65 million she cost at the Talasol sale last December. First start for Joseph here, I suppose. Pick of her form was that second in the matron to Tahira, and a similar performance here you'd imagine would make her very, very hard to beat Donn. She's the highest rated in the field by some bit. Are you with her?
Yeah, like as you say, Emma, she's the most interesting filly in the race for sure, or mare in the race. She's got that price tag from the December sale, and she got that really good performance in the Matron Stakes when she stayed on really well to just go down by about a length to here in the end. So that was a massive run, and she won the Windsor Forest, or the old Windsor Forest, the Duke of Cambridge Stakes at Royal Ascot. She was a big enough price that day, and she was trained by Tom Clover. So yeah, really interesting here, making her debut for Joseph O'Brien. And I think the reports from Joseph were fairly positive during the week. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see her here. I'm looking forward to seeing Ocean Jewel as well for William McCreary. I thought she did well last year. She won a Group 3 race at Leopardstown back in June, the Ballycora Stakes over 7 furlongs, and I thought she won that pretty well in the end. She showed a really good turn of foot to go and put the race to bed, and then they kind of closed her down a wee bit close home. But that turn of foot to me was key. Real Appeal was second. He ran really well the other day. Carried the one as with Johnny Murtha. Then he's come out and won a handicap for Michael Bell this season. Mutasarraf was back in fourth, and Agartha was well back in fifth. So it's a good level of form. She was beaten at Naas next time in the Ballyogan, but that was back down to 6 furlongs. And I just thought the way she saw it, 7 furlongs at Leopardstown, then that maybe 7 furlongs is her trip, and she was worth a go back up at a mile or up to a mile. She ran in the Matron Stakes over a mile, and she was well beaten in the end. She finished well behind Rogue Millennium, but she didn't have a great run through that race. She was kind of short of room just on the run inside the 2 furlong marker when she was kind of following Rogue Millennium through. So I think there's more to come from Ocean Jewel. And William McCreary, our trainer, has done really well in this race. He won it with Epona Plays, and he won it with Devonshire as well recently. So I just think Ocean Jewel, like she's a half sister to Mother Earth, a Guineas winner, and I think a mile will be like she does have pace, and she won her maiden as a juvenile over 5 furlongs. But I think there could be more to come from her in general, and I think there could be more to come from her over a mile as well.
Interesting to see her stepping in here. Yeah, I'm probably going to side with the Joseph O'Brien Rogue Millennium myself. I was down in Joseph's, kind of like I said, and yeah, the vibes were pretty strong around her. I think he was hoping to get that Group 1 success with her kind of sooner rather than later. And I suppose with the price tag, she was always going to be coming in here with a high profile. But just looking at her, she looks like a big strapping type of mare. Even turning 5, wouldn't be surprised to see her improve again, because she's a real kind of big physical unit, I suppose. So I suppose she's probably developing the whole time. So I think, yeah, a reproduction of her best form. I think she could be fairly hard to beat here. So Rogue Millennium for me, and Ocean Jewel there for Donn in the 235. But we'll go on to the 310, the Tattersalls Gold Cup, another cracker. Augusta Rodan in here at 4-6. On the comeback trail once again, Donn. He blew out in Maidan in March, but I suppose the good thing for favourite backers is when he blows out, he normally comes back fairly emphatically. But look, he's short enough in here, and probably no guarantees that he's going to go back to the best of his 3-year-old form after disappointing in Maidan. Some good horses in here opposing as well. I was really impressed by White Birch on both reappearances so far this year, but he does have a fair bit to find with Augusta Rodan on their 3-year-old form. Are you going to trust the Aidan O'Brien horse to come back again?
It's all about price, isn't it, Emma? It's all about the odds. And look, Auguste Rodin at his best, he's the one they ought to beat for sure. He's well clear on ratings, and he deserves a short price tag. But you just don't know how he's going to perform. It was disappointing the last day in Maidan, but look, on his run in the Breeders' Cup Turf, when he was brilliant in the Breeders' Cup Turf, he showed that turn of foot. Like, he got that gap on the inside, and it wasn't going to last for very long. And when Ryan Moore asked him to pick up, he really accelerated, and he only won by 3/4 of a length in the end. But he kind of, once he gets there, he doesn't tend to do a lot in front. And it was the same in the Irish Champion Stakes last year, when again he got to the front, and then he only won by a half a length from Luxembourg. But I think he had more in hand than that. Nashville stayed on to take third, and King of Steel was back and forth. He came out and won the Champion Stakes at Ascot next time under the Frankie Dettori swan song written in the script. But no, I'm with you on White Birch. I think he's a really nice horse. His 2 runs this season have both been very good. I thought he took a step forward last time in the Mooresbridge Stakes when he just was very, very good. He was very strong all the way to the line. He came right away from Lord Massachusetts and Greenland. And he finished third in the Derby last year as well. Like, obviously that leaves him with five or so lengths to find with Auguste Rodin. But he proved that day that he could handle better ground. It was good to firm ground at Epsom. So while his form this year has been on soft ground, and you wouldn't mind, I mean, I'd say a little bit of cut in the ground would be a positive for him. He can handle better ground, and he just looks like a horse who will improve again now as a 4-year-old. And this trip, 10.5 furlong trip, should be pretty perfect for him. As he proved the last day, and both runs this season have been over more or less this course and distance, albeit on softer ground. So interesting, Colin Keane is on board again. Like, he was on board in the Mooresbridge Stakes, he was on board in the Alleged Stakes on his debut this season, and he rode him in the Derby last year. So they're probably his 3 best runs, and Colin Keane is on board for all 3. So it's obviously a positive that he's back on board. And yeah, I think he's an interesting horse against Auguste Rodin.
Yeah, for sure. He has those 5 links to make up, like you said, on Epsom. But I think he has improved this year, for sure. And that has kind of remained to be seen with Augusta Rodin. We don't know if he has improved. Obviously, he blew out Maidan. Coming back to the car might be easier for him, but there's definitely question marks about him. And I think White Birch is a very worthy challenger. I suppose his form kind of petered off a bit towards the end of the season, but going back to his kind of early 3-year-old form, the Derby and the Dante, he was a really smart horse, and he could even be better again at 4. So I think it's probably fair enough to take on Augusta Rodin at odds on. It's kind of hard to trust him there. Elegant Man, I thought, was another interesting one. I thought for Adrian Murray. Obviously, he won the all-weather classic in Newcastle, didn't he? It's his first one on turf, I think. So it'll be interesting to see how that all-weather form translates here. But I think we're both with White Birch for that one for John Murphy. Nice to see him getting another top-level success. But we'll go on to the 345 then. Probably the race I'm most looking forward to over the whole weekend. I think that the Irish Guineas is just an absolute cracker. The 1,000 Guineas Opera Singer, I suppose, probably was the filly that everyone was most looking forward to seeing from Ballydoyle. She got a bit of a setback, I think, early on in her training, and she missed the English Guineas, but she comes back here and she has some really, really strong opposition. Paddy Toomey has a pair of very good fillies, a Lilac Rolla and Purple Lily. I was maybe slightly surprised to see Willie Lee taking the ride on Purple Lily. I would have maybe on form, but a Lilac Rolla slightly ahead of her. But Shrewd Stable, I'm sure they know which one goes where. And he obviously had the choice on Vespertilio as well, who he rode in the French Guineas a couple of weeks back. She ran a great race there in third as well. So really, really strong field here, Donn. Opera Singer, I suppose, is the obvious starting point. She was a brilliant 2-year-old. I suppose we saw City of Troy blowing out in Newmarket. Would that put any doubts in your mind about these Justifieds coming on into their triol campaigns?
Not really, Emma. It's different. I think Opera Singer's a bit different. I think Aidan said in the early part of the season that she just had a little. She wasn't as far forward as he wanted it. That she was in a race against time to get to Newmarket. So this is her seasonal debut, and she didn't make Newmarket. But no, as you said, her form in the latter part of last season, she went down by a head to a Lilac Rolla at the Curragh during the summer. But then after that, like she went back to the Curragh and was really impressive in winning a Group 3 race there. She beat Brilliant in that, and Brilliant won the Park Express Stakes on her debut this season. And then she went to France, and like she was superb in France. She just pulverized her rivals that day. And she was the kind of the outstanding juvenile filly from last season on that basis. Looking forward to this year. So we've had to wait for a little while, but it's going to be good to see her back, and it's not surprising that she's at the top of the market. Fallen Angel beat Vespertilio as well in the Moyglare. She did well to win that day because she was in front from early, or prominent from early, and when Vespertilio challenged, it looked like she was coming with a race-winning run, but Fallen Angel battled back well, and actually she won by more than a length in the end. You have to forgive her run in the Guineas at Newmarket. She was only 8th there, but I think you can, because they went fast and she was up at the fast pace. Like all the main finishers in the Guineas at Newmarket, they came from well back. Like the winner was well back on Malka. Porta Fortuna, Donnacha O'Brien's filly, came from a fair way back. Tamfana had to switch and she came from well back. Ylang, who was 5th, came from well back. Ramatuelle, the French filly, she was the only one who was kind of prominent and managed to stay up there. So I think Fallen Angel, she was sent off as favourite for the Guineas actually at Newmarket. But I think you can, if you fancied her on last year's form, then I think you can allow her the Guineas run. That said, I think she's short enough. Vespertilio, yeah, like she was one of the top juveniles from last season, and she was really good in France. I thought for a second she was coming to win a race. She was coming with that run down the near side, and only went down by a length or by a half length in the end. That was only 2 weeks ago, so it's a quick enough turnaround for a filly after her seasonal debut. Purple Lily is a filly that I like, and I was kind of hoping that Billy Lee would ride her, and I was happy to see him on her. I just thought her the attitude she displayed to win her maiden on a racecourse debut at Galway last year to beat Tanola, that was a really good performance. On her debut this season, she beat Portland, who's got a rating of 108. Chicago Critic, who was 3rd. Johnny Murtha's horse, he's come out and won a handicap off a mark in the 90s since then. And Purple Lily then went on to the Salsable Stakes, and that was over 10 furlongs. It just seemed to stretch her. She was beaten by a good filly, really well-bred and progressive filly of Dermot Wells and Azealia. But I just thought the 10th furlong seemed to find her out a little bit. And back down now over a mile, I think that will suit her a fair bit better. Her dam won over a mile, and her dam is a half sister to Lady's Secret, who was a 1.5 mile filly. She was placed in the Oaks, but she's by Calix, so I just think that pace. So she has the pace for a mile. She's only had 3 runs, so I think she'll come forward again. Can see a Lilac Roller running a big race. She did well to beat Kitty Rose the last day, and the two of them pulled nicely clear of Buttons, and Buttons is in there. If they go fast, I think that'll suit Buttons. She's finished off her race well on both her runs this season, both in the Guineas, well, in both Guineas trials, I guess, at Leopardstown. And last time Wendla was able to set a really sedate pace. Colin Keane just set his own fractions to suit him, and I thought Buttons did well to get as close to Wendla as he did, given that the early pace was so slow. So she could run well at a bit of a price. And Alpharat's good to see her in there for Joe Murphy. Thought she won well at Killarney. It's a big step up in grade, but she's interesting at a bit of a price. But no, I think Purple Lily, I can see her coming forward again, dropping back down to a mile.
Right, yeah, I agree with what you're saying there. I was kind of in the Lilac Rolla camp, but they obviously seem more confident about Purple Lily on jockey bookings even alone. Like you said, dropping back to the mile, I think should suit her. Philly with a great attitude. I thought beating Portland even on reappearance this year was a big performance. He went on to run fairly well as well in the Derby trial last time. I think the mile should suit her. 8-1 seems a very fair price about her, but I'm really looking forward to seeing Opera Singer as well. Even though she is short enough in the betting there, 9-4, she was one of the kind of star 2-year-olds from last year. But yeah, it's a cracker. I think we're both with Purple Lily in that one though. For Paddy Toomey and Billy Lee, I think she should run a massive race there. But I think we've kind of gone through all of the main action from the 2 days at the Curragh. Cracking card over the 2 days. And Don, before we finish up, I'll ask you for a nap and a next best for the weekend.
I'd say for the nap, I'll go with Regional in the Greenlands. I just think he's got lots in his favour, as we were discussing earlier. The Grand, the trip, trainer's form, the fact that he's coming over, and I think as well that the Curragh will suit his style of racing. He likes to get up prominent and race handily, and I think that will suit him. So he'd be nap, and then next best. Yeah, I think I'll go with Purple Lily at the price. I think she'd run well in the Guineas. What about you?
Very good. I'm going to go for Rogue Millennium in the 2:35 on Sunday. And my next best, I'm going to go for Sumna in the Orby Stakes for Dermot Weld, if I'm pronouncing that right. I think she could run a massive race there. Unexposed filly. She kind of falls into the could be anything bracket. I think she has a Group 1 entry as well later on in the year in the Pretty Polly or something like that. So I think she could be a progressive looking one. But we'll wrap it up there, Don. Thanks very much for all of your analysis of all the races across the weekend. Hopefully get you back on again soon. And if anyone enjoyed the show, make sure and like and subscribe to the channel. We'll be back on Monday to review all of the action from the weekend.